You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
Ta-da!
And we're live.
Yes, and all the buttons work. They work.
That is excellent. Somebody is saying weird music, actually. Okay. So here we are. Yeah, my Twitch chat is actually working, which is good. We sort of never know. Last week we had some amusing chaos with that. I can't see how many people are actually watching the show because the view numbers are all fucked up. But
so you do that button, and it will tell you. Wow, they are fucked up. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot more than 32.
This is something. This is something that I actually see zero. I see literally nobody is watching that, even though I can see people chatting.
Fix it.
Clearly, this is my fault.
Obviously, having Corns here was a terrible mistake, and this is something that we should have known about. We get what we deserve, ultimately. There we go. So yeah, this is a kind of a weird show. We've brought on some of the economic powerhouses who really understand this shit, and a CSM representative. We've got Aerith, we've got Corns. Corns, the man, the myth, the legend. He is age 9. And we have Jintan.
Howdy, howdy.
And yeah, so we're going to be talking about, actually there's been a tremendous amount of disruption in EVE this week, which is always good. War is a force that gives us meaning, and we have FCON dying. Fuck FCON.
Fuck FCON.
Good riddance, and more updates on the DRF versus Guardians of the Galaxy War. So
yeah, we do have a special report too, right before we jump into the top story. This week, and I guess maybe over the weekend, a guy was in Goons, tried or successfully stole like 10 billion ISK. It's like a drop in the bucket. But he got kicked for it. He was doing it live on stream, and after he got kicked, he kind of went bipolar and flipped out, took a whole bunch of pills, did a whole bunch of really bad stuff live on stream. Twitch and CCP did an excellent job of handling this. They notified police from where he lived. His Twitch got banned immediately because they did their protocol to check that. And then, what do you want to call it? Then CCP went into action. So here's some links for that. I wanted to say good job on them real quick, because that was an excellent job of handling that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Police showed up at the guy's house, looked into him, made sure he was okay, took him to the hospital. They found that he had done a lot of bad pills that could have probably killed him. So they did an excellent job of taking care of that. So,
and he survived, which is the important thing. And the Polish newspapers wrote it up, and so good work to everyone. You know, it is unfortunate. One of the things I'll say, I of all people, you know, am not. You know, the whole FanFest 2012 thing makes it look like I was saying to somebody who was in, like, right there in the throes of a mental episode, that they should kill themselves. That's not the case. When somebody is actually in a process of doing that, and if you do catch somebody on Twitch saying that they're going to commit suicide and they're in the throes of a mental episode, most people did. We saw this. We were watching this. Reach out to police and to CCP, and everybody sort of went into mad scramble to set this off.
There was a lot of Reddit threads and like police reports, stuff like
that. We had a guy in Goons Forum who tried to be edgy, right? Like, this is, you know, this is not something that is cool to mess around with. So we had somebody who was trying to be edgy, and we just purged them instantly for that. This is not a laughing matter. I've certainly learned to not even in jest mock this kind of thing. Anyway, it's a good news story that it worked out, that the guy was rescued and is alive today. So high fives all the way around to the EVE community and to CCP for making sure that we didn't lose somebody that we didn't have to lose.
Right.
So,
so yeah, moving right before we go into our top story, we have a whole bunch of people that subscribed. Not as much resubscribers, which is really cool. We have new people. I like new people. I mean, I love our resubscribers. But 4 months from Aaron Thor says beer money for mittens. Dianotics has a brand new subscriber. Thank you. Evil Scotsman 11 just subscribed. Frigate Menace, and then Carl Mason Mink, just all both subscribed with Twitch Prime. And then, oh, there's Anominate. 28 months resubscribed. Thank you very much, Anominate. So yeah, we're going to jump into the top story, and our top story today is...
On a lighter topic.
It's going to be pretty hilarious. All right,
and one final shout out there we go. Darth Kill and Scooter. Scooter says, Happy Memorial Day. Thanks for serving those that served. And Darth Kill, 12 months. Missed the Fireside Meta Show will have to do. Hopefully there should be a recording from Ichiro Hill.
Yeah, there's always a recording. There's a guy that links it in Elysium with a full breakdown.
He's a hero, which is sweet.
So top story.
This the top story today. We brought on some of the best minds in the galaxy when it comes to economy. We talked about this a little bit last week, but now we're actually starting to see the impacts of the Lifeblood patch. So they've issued the monthly economic report, and we've got some analysis. Imperium News did a whole rundown on it, and I want to just sort of start off with Querns, because Aerith is a regular here, and this is the first time we've had Querns on in a while. Or is this actually your first time in voice chat, Querns?
This is actually my first time on the Meta Show. No one has ever asked me before.
Wait, I thought you were here before with me.
He's always been an unofficial member of the Meta Show because he hangs out in chat and provides smarter commentary than I can ever provide. So I'm glad that you're here, Querns. Querns is age 9. And he basically is very, very good with economic everything. So I want to start with you, Querns. Can you just tell us a little bit about what, as if you were explaining to me, because as Querns...
So are you also age 9?
I'm more, when it comes to economic stuff, I'm more like age 5. So explain like you're explaining it to little old me. What does this month's economic report mean compared to the previous ones, and what should folks who are playing EVE take away from this?
Okay, so there's a few things in here that are particularly interesting. I mean, one, there's the elephant in the room. We mined a lot. We sucked a lot of croc. And what's interesting about that is that it isn't even really Delve that's interesting. It's you look at the number 2 person, or number 2 region. That's Quirius. Quirius outmined every other region in the game, and that's not even like, that's where our blow-off miners go. So that's where the real interesting thing is. It's just like, it's out of control. It is absolutely unstoppable, can't stop, won't stop. The croc pile doesn't stop from getting taller.
Yeah, I asked someone if they could make me for the show, but they didn't do it in time. I wanted to do a tall sting on the this graph because it reminds me of looking at the old, like,
that's
chart.
a perfect place for a tall sting. Yeah,
like,
here actually.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna link the mining chart. It was already linked in chat here.
Yeah,
and it is very very tall sting. Yeah, the Quirius thing. Is this the first month that Quirius has also outmined everything else in addition to Delve? Or is
I want to say that it is. I can't remember perfectly offhand, but with the death of CO2 especially, it absolutely sort of clinched it in there.
Yeah, this is definitely the first.
Yeah, no. Because
I tried to see Impasse on this chart, and Impasse went from, I mean, CO2 had been mining Impasse, and something happened to CO2. Not like Aerith would know anything about that. And Impasse is basically ceased. I mean, Impasse is behind period basis now in terms of mining.
Yeah,
which is a real shame because Impasse is a really, really good region. I mean, it's like if you were to rank them, Delve is obviously number 1. I would say Impasse is probably in the top 5. Maybe even number 2.
Yeah, I was number 3 personally to me.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, Impasse is a really good region, and it's just not getting used.
This will give me a great segue here because this past week someone released a website. They call it Crabicus, which is a great ironic name here, which people can manually put in their API if they so choose, and it will keep track of how much they mine in terms of IS, now that the ledger's available to actually look at that. And this shit's hilarious.
This came up on the Fireside. Somebody was asking me to comment on it, and I'm just going to say, since we've talked about it on the Meta Show now, I would strongly advise any people in the Imperium to not give your APIs out to third-party sites, and do not use this site.
That's what I was about to say.
How about this? We will come up with an Imperium-specific version of this thing, so you don't have to go do that if you want to keep score.
But
Yeah.
The reason for bringing it up on the Meta Show, though, is where I thought interesting is that how many test people are put into this. And some people did some math, and they found that a couple of guys that were into this list had to have been mining 18, 20 hours actively a day, which is inhumanely possible. It's impossible. Because one of the guys that's in the top 10 billion doesn't even use a Oracle. Can't even fly one. So this list is fucking hilarious. But it's a great way to look at all these regions are making all this money, yet they're nothing compared to Delve.
Yeah, and
just to give you an idea of how far ahead Delve is, if you take like the 1 to 10, like the top 10 regions that are mined in Eve, excluding the Forge, Delve is bigger than 2 through 10, like combined.
And then
you
if you
do
add
more mining in Delve than the other top 10 combined.
And then you add queries to that, and it just gets even sillier.
And
it's
so,
pretty unbelievable.
Yes, I have a question for Aerith about this, and maybe with our relation to Delve here. A comment was made in regards to this, and one of the threads was called "Good Fight, It Was Close." That was posted by a goon, and that's what got a lot of the attention. And someone said it's because Delve is so easy to defend, and it's so perfectly compact that it makes it invulnerable. And then someone replied with, well, what about the drones? The drones have no NPC space. You can go to the back of the drones and disappear back there. Why aren't the drones up there? What do you think? Why is it that those 8 or 9 regions of the drones just aren't mining?
There's a lot of stuff you have to do as prerequisites to do something like we're doing. It's not just recruit a bunch of guys, build a bunch of oracles. It doesn't work that way. So I think that people haven't found the kind of right sauce and the right blend for the region they live in. And this recipe will be somewhat different for every region. Impasse would be one of the reasons I like it is it's very similar to Delve. You can do basically what we're doing in Delve and Impasse, but you can do what we're doing to some degree in drones, but you have to do it differently. And so if you just try to cargo cultist, it won't necessarily work. Also, it takes a lot of ISK, it takes a lot of manpower, it takes a lot of coordination, and it takes a whole lot of planning and theory. So I just don't feel like there's enough critical mass out there kind of in finance teams / logistics teams to do kind of what we've done in Delve. But you could do Delve in at least 3 to 4 other regions in Eve. And in one of them, it's probably better. Arguably, depends on how their moons got seeded.
Yeah,
hold on. There's also another aspect to this. It's the fact that the drone regions are actually mostly renters. And now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with renting. I have no problem with someone who decides they want to rent instead of having to deal with the Fozzie's job, especially God. But the problem is, if you're a renter, you necessarily don't have the skills necessary to take space. You don't have the materiel needed to drop 20 faxes whenever somebody gets attacked. Right. You're just militarily less prepared. That's just the nature of the deal. And so because of that, you're less able to protect your guys. And so whenever you can't protect your guys, whenever you get shot or you get farmed, it just impacts you so much more than if someone gets dropped on a Delve.
Right. This map is just interesting. Also, in the same throws, they looked at the bounty system. That map was released, and again, Delve is almost 10 trillion ISK, with Branch, Terry, Declan being right behind the next.
So I'm gonna keep going up, baby.
But I don't see how. No matter, I don't know, maybe this is a bad opinion, but no matter what CCP changes fundamentally about the game, this isn't going to change. Because the structure that Goons have is just leaps and bounds ahead of anyone. On Friday...
The things they need to do to change it, if they really wanted to nerf that, are so impactful to everyone else in Null, they can't. They'll just kill Null.
I kind of get the impression that they've stopped trying, because they did for a while there. It seemed like CCP was pointing a gun at Goons Forum and trying, as the monthly economic reports came out, to nerf 4 calls and nerf this and nerf that. And on the meta show for months, we would say, look, whenever you have the bodybuilder versus the 100-pound weakling, each of them are handed a 50-pound weight. The bodybuilder's like, this is no big deal. The guy's never lifted a weight in his life is crushed. The differential impact of difficulty increases based upon organizational structure. Most of you have watched the meta show, have seen this song and dance a million fucking times.
I mean,
the CCP, the point I'm making is that we haven't seen CCP trying to do that anymore for at least 3 months now. So, I mean, Aerith, Jintan, as the CSM reps, do you think CCP is sort of stopped trying to have they made peace with the concept of Delve and organization, or are they just not focused on?
If you
trying
don't
to
mind
nerf
me
us?
cutting in here, I can
Go for it.
I can save the CSM reps some potential grief here. They are absolutely going to nerf orc walls again. Fozzie said as much during Vegas, so it's coming. He hasn't said when or what it'll entail, but there's another Rourke nerf on the horizon, just period.
Well, Rorqual nerfs, like, okay, so everybody's across the galaxies, Rorquals get nerfed. Okay, so CSM perspective, what do you guys think? Knowing that, assuming that one is coming, then should we be mad about it? Every time this happens, the rest of the galaxy gets crushed more than Goonswarm.
No, I think from our perspective, this is a selfish goon perspective. We should be quite happy about it, and we should be willing to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, every time CCB nerfs us by 10% of the rest of the galaxy, we've seen this now proved by multiple monthly economic reports. When they did a Rorqual nerf, it ends up being a slight nerf to us, but functionally a bigger nerf to everybody else, which means just basics here, that's a buff to us.
I think, well, Kern's made it very, I don't know where Kern said it, but he said this last week, and it's very true. We're further down the road on the riches of mining right away when it got patched in before anyone else is. So we've got trillions and trillions and tens of trillions in our membership sucked in, while everyone else is still trying to play catch up. So any nerf now is disproportionately effective against our hostiles. So
Yeah.
You're going to love this, Aerith. During my show yesterday, Dystopia is a known PL member. I think he's PL or NC. He said that everyone in EVE doing what you said not to do got themselves balls deep into fighting a big war, all in the key regions of the game that would otherwise be able to compete in mining and moon mining right before the patch hits. And now that the patch is hit, none of them are making any money. Like, none of these regions are all barren because nobody was economically prepared in any way, shape, or form in any of these regions of the game in the south.
But that can't be true. They told us on the meta show a couple of weeks ago that they had all prepared amply for Lifeblood. We went around at a big round robin, and everybody from entities not Goonswarm insisted that they had put in the prep to handle this. Actually, that's a good question. Let's shift instead of just mining. Let's talk about some of the more specific. I mean, obviously, Lifeblood is about mining because it's about moon mining, but most of the moons can't be mined yet because either fracking takes a long time, or huge swaths of the galaxy don't have refining platforms up. I'd actually like to bring Jintan in on this from like a CVA perspective. What's it like over in Providence? Have you guys dropped a lot of refining arrays? What's your status? What's not OPSEC that you can tell us about how you guys have been handling it?
Well, the rebalance in general has been kind of a theoretical boon for Providence. We've gotten a lot more moons than we once held. Still probably one of the worst regions, but not as absolutely god-awful where we have like 4 R64s over an entire region as we had before. Now we have, 8, something along those lines. But yeah, we weren't really prepared for both like dropping our stuff, and we didn't have a strong military plan for dropping our stuff. So we're super behind on this whole race to get that first R64 moon up and get that first, goo on the market.
You guys don't have a R64 moon up at all?
I'm gonna say no comment on that.
Well, hold on. Let me step in here. Let me explain the magnitude. So we're hearing that Jintan, they don't even have an R64. But even if we haven't the rock yet. Right. But even if you had every single one towered, you would still be behind, because the proper way to have played this was you need to go up the fucking stack, right? You need to be at least at intermediates or already have goo in hand, to where we started with reactors, big T2 reactors. Everyone could slam all this goo in. So we're going to have outputs before, while everyone else is still scrabbling in the dirt to be able to react.
Right.
Like, you had to insert up the chain while you towered everything. That was the proper way to play it, and everybody fucked it up but us.
That's just, I mean, it's crazy to think about that. And just imagine, as a corporation, it's like the game changed so heavily and nobody's ready. Like, how is this going to hit EVE at 6 months? I mean, we're already seeing ships skyrocket in price just from experimenting. But someone in Minilove was telling me, just a random line member, that they're concerned with, being able to do bombers now. That soon Taloses and battlecruisers will be cheaper than bombers which is a
What
freaking-
is, yeah, like, actually, can we get, I'm not sure whether Aerith or Corns knows this, but,
Right.
like, let's try to turn this around from the perspective of everybody who's watching this that isn't, like, a high finance or an alliance leader who actually has to, like, plan mining these things. Are we already seeing impacts on regular EVE players in terms of the stuff that they buy and sell every day, one? And two, if we're not, when could we expect to see them, and what could we expect to change?
We are definitely seeing some effects now, but they're not as bad as they're going to be. Like, you can look at jump freighters, for example. Last time I looked, which was a week or two ago, Araya, a Caldari jump freighter, was getting to be around 10 billion ISK. 6 months ago, maybe more, it was 7 billion ISK. It's gone up, almost 50% in that time. So you're seeing some of that stuff now. If you look at some of the more esoteric heavy interdictors, deep space transport, stuff like that, things that don't get used very much and don't get sold very much, relatively speaking, you're seeing a lot of price wonkery going on there. So there's definitely measurable effects, but yeah, there's more's coming.
Think of it like this. Like, I try to explain this to when we teach in GSIS, it's our Jabber channel for economic theory and Goons. We try to teach people the ripple effect, right? Like stones in a lake. The first ripple was the speculationists coming in before the patch, and to some degree after. The second ripple is going to be the shock wave as reacted things and comps run out and reactions haven't filled in fast enough. The third ripple is going to be when we don't have enough inputs online quick enough from mining moons to supply more reactions, so that compounds the ripple effect. So you're going to have multiple waves crashing the market, and you're just now seeing, for example, the waves of IS coming to buy the salvage that you need to make the rigs, because people are just now getting towers down. Well, the salvage has spiked tremendously. And we're chewing through so much of it, I'm exhausting some of my personal stockpiles of some of this salvage. So Jita's already going nuts. And anyone that was late to the game is just paying more and more IS, which means strategically they can afford to tower less moons, which means strategically the third order effect is they have less IS coming in, which means they're less attractive to recruiting, which means we get all your people.
So it becomes like a knock-on effect of essentially you lose the race to begin with, which means that you end up losing the later races, and every single area where you're behind, the gap increases.
Exactly.
Here's a question with this, and I'm going to put this to Aerith and to Jintan. From a CSM perspective, do you guys believe that CCP was aware of the economic hellstorm that they were going to be creating with this patch? And if they were aware, are they was this a planned thing? Did they know they were going to be unleashing chaos, or has Pandora's box been opened and they are clueless as to what's going to happen?
I think they knew. I think they knew to some degree. I think they're shaking up the sandbox to some degree, because this is healthy. How do you get players to adopt a new feature quickly? Well, you make it profitable. How do you get new players to be interested and involved in something quickly? Well, you make it profitable and you make it fun and seizing things in a land rush. Like, I feel like they did it right. I feel like there's enough stockpiles to weather the storm, but it's going to be a fun storm.
Jintan?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the last time we had you had me on this show, we were kind of talking about the CSM and CCP, and how CCP doesn't see these kind of second and third order effects on the game as a result of the changes they make. They can see the basic cause effect, but they don't see the effect to effect to effect, which is what EVE kind of is at a larger scale. And I genuinely don't think they expected this amount of shockwave, despite us telling them that this is what was going to happen.
One of the things I want to point out is that the last major shakeup that they had was around the time of, I'm trying to remember the name of the patch, but it was 2013 when the Fountain War kicked off, was the changes with Technetium amounts. And I believe that at the time, actually, I'm pretty sure on this, they still had the resident economist on staff. Like, they actually had a university professor in economics who was advising CCP and working for the company on understanding second and third order effects. So they rebalanced Technetium and re-emphasized R64s, and then that set off a lot of galactic chaos, which is good. I mean, I like the fact that stockpiles are getting taken out. I like the fact that the game's economy is now resting more on in-game activity as opposed to out-of-game bullshit, like the casinos, right? Because previously none of this shit mattered, because people would just make money off of gamblers. But I think that it's going to be. I think that we're not going to. We'll really start to. I don't think CCP is going to wake up and realize what happened until people in JITA who are trying to buy, like, a fucking interceptor are suddenly seeing the prices triple and start howling.
Well, think about it from their perspective. Like, this isn't dangerous. It's not an ISK faucet. It's just something that's shifting ISK around among the player base, mining in general, minerals and Moongoo. So there's not an ISK value they have to worry about wrecking the economy. So there's really no danger to the economy, short of prices skyrocketing, reaching a level people don't want them anymore, and then the prices drop because they have to. And more supply will eventually get online. So it is a temporary thing, and there's not much danger for their economy itself. So I think that's why they're probably willing to take a risk.
Could you explain what an ISK faucet versus an ISK sink is for viewers who might not know what that is?
So an ISK faucet is something that the game is giving you ISK that's basically magicked up out of nowhere, right? Ratting is the prime example of the largest ISK faucet. And a sink would be something like skill books that you're paying CCP money for that disappears from the economy. Now, generally, you want to have positive ISK generation, but that's something that has been scary for them lately because we're generating a whole lot ratting.
And here's the main thing to keep in mind: anytime that you trade or send ISK to another player, be it via the market or just by giving it to them, that isn't an ISK sink or a faucet. That's just transfer. CCP, by and large, doesn't care about those transfers unless they're involved with RMT.
Well, so that's the question I have now. So we've seen what happens when a big chunk of EVE isn't doing this, but what happens if this third of the game, which extends from where tests live to the northern drones, is embattled in war and fighting and this like civil war bullshit for the next 3 or 4 months? Like, they just don't get their shit online because there's always new tenants. Somebody takes a space, someone loses space. It's just a constant mess. What happens come February, March with this system? Like, is there enough stockpiles out there to last that long? And if so, or if not, where the hell is it going to come from? Like, you're going to see a shift away from JITA maybe, where people start pulling their stuff out of JITA and doing it local for their own guys, so they don't have to go spend 3-4 times the amount because JITA can't afford it. Like,
that's already our plan to some degree. Right. We will have a local economy. We already do have a local economy for Moongoo. And reactions, like, it's an insane amount of reactions you get slammed in. Anyone can see this on the map. Just look at the reaction index, and you can see Delve lights up like a Christmas tree. But you still have to have a way to get those stockpiles out. And to your point about the 3 months, I personally can probably handle most of JITA's demand for 3 months. So yeah, there are stockpiles.
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind is that T2, all the things involved in T2, you have to import, full stop. There is no way to do completely local production of T2 because there's regional Moongoo like Technetium and Cesium and whatnot. And now you actually have to have topes that come from outside your region as well. So, or isotopes, I should say, for those who don't know what topes are.
Is it potential? And I guess is the question. I mean, we're the 4th largest market in the game. 1DQ1, it has surpassed Dodixie.
Third.
Oh, we're now 3rd now. So we're behind the margin.
We've actually been 3rd for.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We've actually been 3rd for a month or 2 now.
Okay.
What are the top 5 markets in EVE?
So the top 5 markets, the top market is obviously JITA, and it's the top market by about 15 to 20 times. Next in line is Amar, which is number 2. 1DQ1 TAC A, which is Goonswarm Federation's capital system, is the 3rd largest market. Sits just under half of what Amar does, and then it's Dodixie and Renz.
Yeah, I got an image for that. Let me see if I can find it real quick while we're talking. But the reason I asked this is that I look at JITA, and shit's expensive at JITA. Will there be a day, and I speak for Goons, but I mean, obviously other groups I don't think are on this level, where stuff in Delve is just cheaper? I mean, it's like cheaper to get an interceptor.
Sorry, it's been that way.
It's been that way for a while now. Aerith, do you want to explain some of the?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a great question, Bode, because this is an opportunity for everybody in EVE, not just in Goonswarm, to
follow this model,
create a local benefit, right? Like, this is the idea of utilizing your space and actually playing the game and doing the stuff in the game to get a benefit. So, Aerith, can you talk about some of basically like the local? Tell us about stuff that is cheaper in Delve compared to the rest of the galaxy because of local production.
Well, the most important item is clearly Plex. Like, you can get all the Plex you want, unless you're trying to export them, I guess. But in Delve, cheaper than JITA, significantly cheaper than JITA. That's after factoring in taxes. It's been that way forever.
Why is Plex and skill injectors cheaper in Delve than in JITA?
People, what appears to be occurring, and I investigated this personally because it was such a weird phenomenon months ago. People are buying Plex from CCP and dumping them to the closest market, which has to be 1DQ, which is where they're docked anyway, we see this heavily in people that are new to Goonswarm. Maybe they're buying their first super capital or their capital or whatever, or they're buying their first Rorqual and Ratting, Ratting ship. So it looks like it's just people funding their EVE careers, and they're using the closest market available, and it's very large. Over 150 billion a day, running through in just Plex. So it's crazy.
I don't know if one of you guys have this link, but there was a link CCP put out, which is a graph or a chart. Some guy made this, where it shows like the trade value of Jita, the trade value of 1DQ1, of Amar, and it's like Jita's in the trillions, like tens of trillions. And then the next one down is like almost $1 trillion. And then we're at like 800 billion. Like, we're getting there. And it's kind of crazy, awesome graph to look at.
I think one of the things that also, like, perhaps the most obvious thing about local mining production is anything that's based around T1, mass amounts of minerals. So capital ships, super capitals are at a I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, so I don't want to say the number, but suffice to say that there is a significant advantage to production of very heavy, high mineral ships like Titans in a place like Delph.
Exactly, yeah. You can even look at just the raw mineral prices in Delve. Not that many super capital producers traffic in raw minerals, but it's still something you need to look at. Tritanium, Trit, is 4 ISK, I believe, in Jita. It's under 3 in 1Q1.
So, I mean, in practice, and again, like Aerith and Corins, please stop me, because I'm going to ask you if this is public knowledge or not. Like, do people know how much of a discount Titans are for the Imperium compared to normal market prices, or is that like OPSEC?
I don't think it was OPSEC, but we just didn't advertise it, so most people don't know that Titans are like under 60 billion. It's retarded.
Okay, so if you're saying it, so if Titans are under 60 billion in Delve, what are they currently going for at normal market prices?
90-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking at more than a 33% discount for super capitals in Delph.
One way I like to look at this too, and I'm not even a market guy at all. I don't know much of anything about EVE markets, and I don't play with them. But is when you see guys taking a faction dreadnought and roaming around with it because it's cheaper to build than the insurance is back, and they make money off dying. So they spend like 20 bill and get like 21. I think is the going, whatever the number is, because of buying the minerals locally. And the blueprint's not that expensive, it's the minerals that go into it. There's just a shitload. And so they're able to get like I think Lente Dreadnought cheaper than it is, to build it. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's more like you're paying the Goonswarm, we don't charge, or we charge a very small build fee. So it's not just mineral costs, it's like, the build fee, it might be a BPC cost, like all of those prices are very, very low. All of our inputs are very, very low. So it's always going to be like 15 to 20 bill advantage against anyone producing anywhere else in general, as long as you're getting kind of the internal Goonswarm price or allied price. Yeah. It's probably got to charge you a little bit, profit. And
yeah, so here's a graph that I think is absolutely amazing. 70 trillion ISK was traded in Domain. 32 trillion ISK traded in Delve, and then everything else below that. Even Lone Trek is not up there with that, or the Citadel.
It's been growing every week. I watch it every week. Every Saturday I check all our economic stats. And it's been growing every day, every week.
So why would Domain be so high, if you don't mind me asking? Like, that's weird that particular region is that huge.
It's Amar.
Oh,
it's Amar. Amar's always been the
Jita.
It's not. Jita isn't on this list.
Okay.
Yeah, Quant deleted Jita, so you could actually see the difference in the other ones.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. I was like, wait a second here, holy shit.
So to roll it back just a little bit here, I actually logged in, and I looked at public contracts for Titans around the Forge, now that there are those places where you can sell them. It looks like a Titan hull with rigs goes for about 75 billion ISK.
Nice. They're getting cheap up there now. We're still 60 and under.
Yeah, one guy here says by mining his own minerals, he paid 28 billion for an avatar.
Why would you pay that much if you mined your own minerals? I don't get it.
I don't know. I've heard people.
He probably means that if he would have sold the minerals that he's that he mined up, he would have gotten 28 bill. But instead,
or like a really huge BPC and build cost.
I don't know. But I mean, I've heard people say as low as 33 bill for Titans if they do their job. So I don't know. It's pretty amazing to think of because let's be honest, T2 ships, while they're important, interceptors are game changing broken right now. They're hopefully going to look at those eventually someday, maybe
One
in terms
day,
of
please.
being able to dodge bubbles. But let's be honest, the things that when you slap your dick on the table that affect the game are Titans and Supers, Carriers and Dreads, fax machines, and those all run off minerals. And who has the most? And you're gonna get to a point where I think if the trends the way it's going now, what can threaten Delve eventually? Like what gets to that point?
I don't want us to get the hubris and suggest that Delve is vulnerable and like we know what can threaten us. I mean, well, economically speaking, obviously, if people come to war in Delve, if Delve gets invaded, we can't mine. Right, like if people attack Delve, then one of the things, and this is I saw a chart that Tuzzy from GSOL showed me, basically a couple days ago when the monthly economic report came out that showed the disruption to our economy when Goonswarm deployed to Hakonnen, and we make so much from 1DQ1 for a lot of reasons that when we did deploy the Alliance, our economy flatlined. Right, we were still mining, but in terms of the kind of stuff that results in people's ships getting reimbursed, it was a big challenge. So, one of the things I think you're going to see is Goonswarm has certainly had to adapt. Like we are using new methods of warfare that we don't talk about on the meta show at all, and don't talk about on Firesides.
Anywhere, to be honest, yeah.
Because the traditional method of war in EVE now. And I think this is a good thing, right? For the longest time, I was advocating on the CSM when I was on the CSM for occupancy SOV. We had that whole got all of nullsec together and signed a document asking for occupancy SOV. We ended up with Fozzie SOV instead, but the idea was that people should live in their space and have farms and fields and actually use the shit in their space in order to make money instead of casinos and like alliance tournament ships, all of the PL and NC bullshit that has nothing to do with EVE. So, it makes sense that when the Imperium deploys away from Delve, the Imperium stops making money, and that's kind of how it should be. Like, we shouldn't be making passive income off of stuff that we're not actually, if we're not tilling our fields, somebody should be able to come and burn them, and we shouldn't be able to make anything.
There's the chart right there. So I saw this posted on Reddit, and it showed all the different regions. Huffy just linked it. When we went to Hakonnen, I was going to ask Gareth what that dip was, but now you just said it was when we went up there, and that makes sense. That dip is just insane. How far down it went when we were.
I think they're only. I think that might only be market. I don't think that's everything.
Oh yeah, this is the in and outs of 1DQ1 market.
Yeah, it's saying cash flow, so it's just market. It's not like the entire but that's activity there.
The question I have, and you bring up Alliance tournament ships, is and maybe the CSM could comment if this has been discussed, but the last 5 Alliance tournament ships that have died, and CCP has a very strict policy, as I've experienced in my own experience with the Knicks. If you die in combat, no matter what the reason, desync, crash, hell, you can have video evidence showing what happened. They don't reimburse you. But yet, the last 5 Alliance tournament ships that have died, all 5 have been reimbursed. Why is that?
Well, the ones I knew about sounded like legit reason. The overview thing was kind of silly. Like that's
that wasn't these though. These 2 of them claimed that they desynced. One claimed that 2 claimed that they got crashed, disconnected. And one of the guys claimed he died to rats.
Well, disconnected, they can easily prove.
Yeah, but CCP has a very, very, very big headline that says, no matter what happens, if you die during combat, rip you. These guys were all used in PvP. So I think that's very interesting that an Alliance tournament ship would get reimbursed because of its rarity. But yeah, Nyx doesn't. So,
Yeah, I mean, the reimbursement policy with CCP has always been inconsistent, and that, I'd have to investigate the facts before I can speak to that, because some people in chat are saying that, what you're suggesting is not true. Like the last
this was a link
games
given to me yesterday, so
didn't get reimbursed. So I don't want to get the torches and pitchforks. What I will say is that now that casinos are out of the way, You know, I've always thought that it was stupid back during the Great War that Band of Brothers would always wave in our faces because they won the first few Alliance tournaments and they had their little champion SIGs and they made such a big deal about tournaments, which is one of the reasons why I've always sort of spat on Alliance tournaments, is because the people who were getting their Saber BPOs from CCP were running around and bragging about how they were also getting a bunch of free ships from CCP through the form of the Alliance tournament. I think that any kind of injection into nullsec of, you know, trillions of ISK distorts the economy and is shitty, just like with the casinos. And you know, I like the idea of an Alliance tournament happening, but I've never been a big fan of these huge giveaways in terms of the Alliance tournaments.
Are you ready to have a subtle chuckle about your hate of the Alliance tournament?
Okay.
It may not be happening this year, along with all the other little Alliance tournaments that spawned because of them. Because as you may know or may not know, Anger Games had to be canceled. Eve NT did not run, as far as I could tell this week. And according to CCP, all the guys that recently either quit, let go, fired, whatever you want to call it, were guys that ran the server designed for those things. And now they have no access. They currently have no employee who can run that server how they set it up. And all those games had to be canceled, all those things. And that includes the Alliance tournament, potentially. Now, CCP has said that they are looking into getting it back up and running before the Alliance tournament. But that's a pretty big hit for people who only play the game for that.
Here's what I would prefer that CCP does. I would prefer, I want them to have the Alliance tournament, but just give the guy who wins or the team that wins, give them five, like if it's a 5-man team or whatever it is, just give the winner of the Alliance tournament $5,000 or 5,000 euros or 5,000 pounds or whatever. Set a fucking prize pool for real world money. Publicize it more. Put some fucking real skin in the game from the company, because the company makes millions of dollars in profit off of EVE Online. EVE Online, we know the financials. They make shitloads of money off of EVE and have for years. That money is then diverted to projects that haven't worked out very well. But there is no reason why CCP could not have a $5 or a $10 or even a $25,000 prize pool for real world earnings for the winnings of that tournament. And if you did that, imagine the kind of coverage you'd get in the gaming press. Because you see what happens with the International, with Dota, and Worlds for League. You know, instead of distorting the EVE economy and giving these Alliance tournament players ships that then are owned by an Alliance like Pandemic Legion and then used to fund an Alliance like a casino, why don't they just have a fucking prize pool and give people real money for winning?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I would love an actual prized Alliance tournament. I will say, however, that the Alliance tournament existed before Thunderdome, and the tools that are used to create the tournament existed way before that and aren't linked into it. So the Alliance tournament has all the same tools as it had before because it happens on Tranquility. It's a real event in EVE. And beyond that, EVE NT will be continuing in a couple of weeks. It's just that Anger Games was running some very unique tournament rules, and no one in CCP understands right now how to change those tournament rules to match the Anger Games format.
That's
that's good to know, Jintan. Thank you. I got a comment here from Jay Amazingness in chat, which I think is totally right. Which is basically you have a big fucking $10,000 cash prize. You do the you do the preliminary rounds, and then you fly both of the top two teams for the final to Iceland. Have a $10,000 prize, have a bunch of fucking TV cameras on it, make it a huge like esports thing in a fucking arena. I mean, this is not a new model. This is something that Valve and that Riot Games and Blizzard with StarCraft have been doing for more than a decade now between the esports community. So I think it would just be, there's a huge opportunity here that's getting wasted, and in the place of that waste, we're getting something that's a bullshit distortion on the EVE economy.
You already have the Alliance tournament commentators go out. What would hurt to send the top 8 teams and do that? Kind of like how League of Legends does, where it's the top 8 teams come out for a big week of championships. I mean, they could do all the games in a weekend. I think that'd be more incentive to get people who don't even play EVE to come into the game. Go, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a big, hey guys, you get flown to Iceland, you get to see this. I mean, a lot of people go to Iceland already because it's having a tourist boom because of social media and Instagram. like it hits sort of like critical mass.
Right.
So if CCP budgeted like 50 grand a year for the Alliance tournament, it would be a huge opportunity for them to spread some goodwill with the player base. Anybody who wins an Alliance tournament and walks away with a grand in their pocket at the end of the day and a free trip to Iceland for being a finalist, those guys are going to fight hard, and they're going to be great ambassadors for the game going forward.
The best part, it doesn't affect the game itself. It just builds publicity free.
Well,
Exactly.
Well, CCP nothing, because they could probably even tax write off it or something.
Unless they buy it all in Plex.
Yeah, I mean,
Spend all your prize money on Plex.
well, they can do that, but anybody can do that currently, right? Like right now, you can have your classic aluminum magnate just buy shitloads of Plex, and that's something that the EVE economy can handle, because that's not it's not an ISK faucet, right? Like when you buy Plex, you're not magically adding money to the economy,
Plex.
right? You have time that people are choosing to bid on the market, which is why its value fluctuates. Anyway, we should talk about
Next,
space
we
war.
gotta move on. Yeah,
Let's talk about fucking war. Sorry about the Alliance tournament rant, guys. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine.
I
It's
agree.
a wasted opportunity, which I hate.
All right, in No Slick Power Hour, we're gonna jump right in. CSM got an update. I didn't.
Fuck FCON!
Yeah, I didn't think Aerith.
Fuck FCON!
I didn't think Aerith would be here, but Jintan wrote an update, as he always does, and this is week 27 to 30. Yeah, if you want to comment on this, Mr. Jintan, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just my general update on what's been going on right now in terms of CCP and stuff that's going on. I don't really want to go into it in too much detail.
If people want to read
can
it,
obviously
they can.
read it. Yeah, and if people have questions, they can always find me and ask about it. I just try and keep people, keep the plebes informed, as Aerith might say.
And then moving right into FCON dying, because they are. The slope god has been kind. The FCON slope has started. It's down 1,200, and it's still plummeting. Right off the bat here,
It's
have
714 right now.
Yeah, they're plummeting. One of their biggest corps left them, Dysfunctionals, which is a great name for someone who's going to leave someone who's falling apart. And then, yeah, that happened. So FCON is probably going to be dead outside of next couple of weeks. And looks like Tri wins on that front pretty quick. They're down 2K. Okay, so this chart's a little off. They're down not 1,200, but 2,000. Holy fuck, yeah, they're dead. Yeah. That's it. Bye, FCON. See ya. Talk to you later. See ya.
And nothing of value was lost. That was mean. I shouldn't have said that.
Oh,
So
no,
Casino-
it's very
You got to
accurate.
recap that though. We got a smug recap. Casino's dead. CO2 dead. FCON dead.
SMA dead.
Well, yeah, that was a given.
Everyone that left us.
We have a list, and we're checking it twice, and we're sort of very slowly. And of course, we had nothing to do with FCON in any way. Like, this is totally separate from us. This is
No, if
simply-
anything, we kept FCON afloat even longer because certain groups that I won't name fed them battleship fleet after battleship fleet. So, if anything, FCON was getting a little wins here and there from us that kind of probably kept them alive. But I will say this, and you guys can comment on this if you want. We're just waiting on more logs to come out, but the only logs that haven't been publicly released are the CEO chat logs from FCON's death. We did get the FC logs this week. I won't be sharing those just yet, but yeah, they're pretty spicy, hilarious to read if you enjoy reading people dying and throwing their limbs around. We're waiting on the CEO ones. Those are going to be the best ones, I think.
Well, let's hope that we get them.
Yeah,
because
because
it'll be a fun raid.
the CE ones are great because there's nobody there. It's just empty.
I get it. Ha ha ha.
All right, and then on the Russian holiday this past week, we had a big Russian holiday. The Russians took that time and that opportunity of everyone being home to push out Guardians of the Galaxy. They proceeded to take all the solve gains that Guardians of the Galaxy had and throw it in their face. They did not manage to finish the Fortizar that they have online. Apparently today, Guardians of the Galaxy managed to take back MTO. So that shit-flinging fest is still going on. But one thing that was impressive out of this, and I'll have a couple of links for that, is Guardians of the Galaxy managed to form up 1,100 dudes on a Tuesday afternoon. They did this after telling all their Americans to, quote-unquote, call in sick. They told all Australians to stay up all night and all their Euros to avoid dinner and not go to bed, which I thought was pretty fucking hilarious. Rick is claiming 1,400 in total, but there was 1,150 in local at the time. So
I'm still I had a note here in another chat channel that essentially every alliance. I'm still on the FCon thing. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Essentially, every alliance that left the Imperium when things got tough during the Casino Wars are either dead or irrelevant. That being CO2, SMA, Razor, FCon, and I guess there's one other that I almost completely forgot about. Wow.
Well, we are top of the world.
Yeah, it's interesting because every alliance that managed to stay with us is still prospering. So
that's right. Executive outcomes from Waffles says.
Yeah, executive outcomes don't even exist, or they exist. I mean, I haven't seen them in a while. Hold on,
I haven't
don't
seen
link those things
Mochi's one
separately.
forever.
Yeah, they're pretty much all dead.
Did executive outcomes shut? Like, are they actually around? Like, I haven't thought about them in a while. When Mo was active, they would, Mo would occasionally pop up in Elysium and stuff. But like, I actually don't know. I was surprised when Razor came up on the Meta Show the other day in the DRF thing. I thought that they were
pretty active. They have about 100-man active fleets, so they are actually helping the DRF, and they've slowly kind of rebuilt themselves. But nobody I know in Razor is anyone I know. I did talk to Death today. He was going to stop by if he could get some appointments rescheduled. Wasn't able to, so hopefully we can get him on next week, because I do want to talk to him and get him on the show. So after this big form up by the Guardians of the Galaxy, the DRF stood down during the middle of this. They claimed that they were being DDoSed. Sword Dragon, of all people, actually made an hilarious statement. He took the I'm gay Kevin Spacey tweet and reworded it to related to DDoSing, and it was pretty hilarious. You have to give him props for that, and I linked that in chat here just a second ago. Wait, Jake Constantine's going to Talking to Stations? No, I didn't hear about that. That's kind of irrelevant. I don't know who that is. And then I saw something really hilarious. If I can find you the link. Here we go. One of the artists, the guys that do like the guy that you see all the test propaganda. Cymek. Someone took his art style and made one for Pandemic Horde, and you guys got to see this. It's the cutest thing ever. So here's a link to that. And it's called Propping Up a Corpse, and it's NC Dot and Pandemic Horde, and then like a what I would like to think of as a dead Pandemic Legion being used to scare people from invading. Kind of like a crop. A
scarecrow.
Scarecrow, yeah. This is such a great image. I made a prediction on my show the other day, and I want to see your opinions of it, everyone here. I don't think PL lives another year at their going rate. Like, they're just bleeding talent, bleeding people, and their idea of playing the game just isn't working, right? They're getting the idea of wherever they go, they're going to have content. It's just not happening.
Let's hear from Jintan, because Jintan was, CVA, of course, was getting, on the Meta Show a couple weeks ago, was getting dropped on by PL with Kilby, and then Pro God Legend with Test killed him. So let's get a frontline perspective. What has PL been up to that you've witnessed over the last month or so, Jintan?
They've definitely stepped down on attacking CVA since the 3D TAC incident, which you were kind of, I guess, tangentially a part of, thanks to the show. By the way, thanks for broadcasting that live. It was really fucking funny to, like, watch back afterwards.
Oh, no problem.
My dudes were, like, all really badly smug posting, and it was atrocious to watch, but it was good either way. I don't really know what PL's done in like the past week or so. They seem to be quieting down and just looking for their next fight, especially now that FCON's moved out of the south. And also NC Dot moved some capitals down south as well, apparently to attack FCON as well. Now that that's all failed, I think they're going to be again hunting for a new place to have content. It might be Provi. They might just redouble their efforts here, or they might go somewhere else. It's just something we've got to see. But there's no easy targets left in the south, basically. It's Test and us.
Yeah. Have you seen NC doing much? I mean, NC is there, and Vince has been herping lots of dwarfs. Actually did come on the Meta Show for the first time ever. What has NC been up to since the last couple weeks?
I can't really talk to them. My last encounter with them was obliterating an entire Loki fleet with like 60 Feroxes. So, I don't know.
As in, you were obliterating them, or they were obliterating?
Oh yeah, no, we killed like 30 bill in Lokis with like Feroxes. It was great.
So they're losing to Pravi block Feroxes. This NC Dot is losing Lokis.
It was one fight. I'm sure they've won some other stuff, but you know, that's my only encounter with them in the past like month.
Yeah, NC Dot's been interesting. They've been flailing around against Test. They recently got stomped by Alpha Fleet from Test when they decided to jump into Test when Test was coming home. But then yesterday, or maybe it was today, they obliterated a Goon Fleet. I don't know who was there. Apparently, I heard it was Space Violence, but they crushed the Space Violence Alpha Fleet with the help of FRT, the Chinese. And those Chinese are, man, there's something. Whew. I heard they came up with a new strategy for defending Fortizars. They drop in 3 separate sets of Alpha Dreads, so the Naglfars, on 3 separate quarters of a Fortizar. So no matter where you are on grid, you're constantly in tracking range. And so they take the Fortizar, they web you down with the Fortizar, and then all the Dreads fire, and Alpha, whatever they're shooting, and they use it to kill an entire battleship fleet, because there was nowhere on grid that you could be out of tracking range of their Dreads. And since you didn't want to drop Dreads on their Fortizar, because Fortizars kill caps easily, they won the timer. And it was pretty goddamn hilarious to watch. I got to watch a video of it, and it's a great concept.
Apparently that was Russians, BSOTA Russians, dude, that are blue to Fraternity.
I was told it was Fraternity, so maybe my guy in Space Violence lied to me. I don't know. But it was fun to watch. I got to see a cool video. And if you like Naglfars, which Vertical Supremacy is the best, it looked quite amazing.
Okay, so I want to bring this back around to the economy, because this war that's been going on, Jintan, I mean, if this, you said that Providence hasn't really done too much in terms of moon prep. Have you seen, from your position on the front, have you seen any of the other parties that are fighting in the East in this conflict? Are they slamming down lots of refining platforms, or is everybody just busy killing each other and not actually doing economic stuff?
I think in like most of the frontline regions, places like Ethereum Reach, Peregrine Falls, to a lesser extent Catch, people just aren't doing them because they don't feel like it's something they can easily do. But in like the home regions that are a little further away from the fighting, things are getting slammed down. It's just, as Aerith was talking about, people weren't prepared for like the magnitude of the amount of shit they've got to deal with.
Aerith, Corns, what does that mean for the galactic economy if all of these regions are essentially out of play?
Longer disruption of the moon goo supply, which means we're going to see bigger ripples when they occur. And they're already, the first ones are starting to hit the Jita market now. So, and that's going to be the people that are starting reactions for the first time that maybe never did them before, or it's reactors restarting. They need inputs, and they've already probably sold their outputs because you saw people flush out their reactors in the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah, so, God, there was just so much entering the market in the first week or two. People were just dumping and dumping and dumping. It was so retarded.
If here's a question from like a strategic perspective. So I'm going to make a prediction here, and we might run a little bit over, but we'll probably have the show over in about by 10 after. But hypothetically, the parties in the East aren't planning effectively, or it's already too late for them to have planned, they've missed the bus. But they only withdraw when the wave of misery hits the ships, right? When it actually gets to the point where the doctrine ships are getting too expensive and their guys need to retreat. So that by the time that the wave hits, oh God, our doctrine ships are too pricey, we need to withdraw and make money. If it gets to the point where people are only withdrawing to try to build their alliance finances and unfuck things, at the point that it hits the ship level, are those entities then vulnerable to what used to be called wolf packs, God's help us, but the kind of area effect guerrilla disruption, does that suddenly make a difference for an entity that's already starving?
That was actually a huge player in this current war. It's one of the major reasons why FCON collapsed, was massive Wolfpack attacks by both Triumvirate and Pandemic Legion. There was nowhere for them to make money, no way for them to move into staging, and it just killed all morale. If you're based around PvE, you just die from that.
As a point of order, you can avoid saying Wolfpacks by calling it Black Ops, because that's what Black Ops does.
That's true. Thank you, because I don't want to call it Wolfpacks.
Yeah, Black Ops is a great
But yeah, Black Ops disruption, guerrilla warfare, interdiction. We could call it like an ice interdiction, but functionally it's a refinery interdiction, is a mining interdiction, where we are seeing. I'm just curious to see. Previously speaking, you could always retreat home, and the alliances were making money from passive income. So it didn't matter whether somebody was sending Black Ops or guerrillas through your space, because alliance income and thus line member reimbursement came from passive moon mining from POS. But now, if an entity like Darkness runs out of cash and retreats to Declan to try to mine stuff and do fracking, that entire process can be disrupted where previously it couldn't.
Correct.
Oh, you know what? It's about to get even worse, and I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but Alpha Clone change, the Alpha Clone change with battle cruisers, battleships, is going to crush these little alliances that want to mine their moons as they come out. Because what it's going to lead to is I have 50 goons, and we were just discussing this today. I have 50 goons who have got a fleet of Taloses logged off in an NPC station in, let's say, Pure Blind. And some little rinky-dink miner group wants to go mine this R64 that they have, the one R64. And we all know when it comes out. I just said a broadcast, hey, all alphas log in. We're there in seconds, and that shit eventually despawns, right? It doesn't stay there forever. So it's going to crush people when these alpha clones come out, because now I can have one account with 3 characters, and that's 3 different regions I'm covering within seconds. All it takes is a broadcast and people already being there. And with the logistics of, hey, how about we just move in a couple of freighters worth of ships, their ships on contract, it's ready to go. People die, well, they get potted right back there. They're an alpha clone. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't tie up actual money-making accounts in Delve. It doesn't tie up your strat-op guys who are going on ops for 17 hours because they had the jump clone. It's all alphas. So you have these little alliances trying to make money, and they're going to get fucking hammered.
I'm curious, I want to wrap things up here, but I got one round of questions for our guests, which is Aerith and Quarrens, because we already asked Jintan sort of on the front. Aerith and Quarrens, do you think, is it possible to make a prediction as to, based upon what you know, which entities or which types of entities are going to lose the most in the next few months because of these economic changes?
It's the traditional iceberg guys. People that are like heavily reliant on PL is a perfect example of this. People that were very heavily reliant on moons or very, very heavily reliant on member taxation of those moons and rental income. Well, renting's sort of a dying thing when there's open recruitment Eve. There are always going to be some people that want to rent because they want to have no obligations and to keep the space to themselves. But that is not a growing subset of the player base. That's generally the same botters over and over. And we may get some new ones from Serenity, but that'll be a one-time kind of bump as Serenity shuts down. So what's really happening then is you are either adapting to the new meta or you're just falling further and further behind. Eventually, you're not going to be able to afford to do a big super cap engagement because you're not going to have the funds to really reimburse it, or not more than 2 or 3. Whereas if people like us making trillions, well, we can. So how do you compete against that? It's like we have the casino list now and you have nothing.
But we're actually playing the game fairly, and they could come shoot us, unlike a casino where...
but we have too many super caps. It's unfair because we can't be shut down.
And it's too isolated. Oh, Delve's too compressed.
I do at some point want, when I'm about to move house, so move in a couple days from now. Movers are coming. Shouldn't have too much of a disruption. But once that completes and I've got a little bit of free time, I'd really like to sort of sit back and read a compilation of people from PL and NC. complaining about how it's unfair to come fight in Delve because Goonswarm and the Imperium have too many supers.
We got to go, but there was one actually this week about that with the NBR, because you have Vic Jefferson going, Delve's impossible to do anything in because it's so defensible, and then PL going, what do you mean? We get all these dank frags there. It's really easy to shut it down. You just have to try. And it's like, wait, what? It's really being shut down. Look at this wonderful graph right here.
Well, to be fair, I mean, people used to say that that Declan was unassailable, and it wasn't. And basically, people were like, "Oh, you can't go there; it's invulnerable. Goons are invulnerable." And then everybody got together with casino money and did pick us out of Declan. So we should be careful of hubris. But speaking of being careful of hubris, we're running a little bit long here. So I want to thank all of our guests for joining us this week, and we will be here same time next week. And looking forward to having more chaos in a good way in Eve. It's good to see economic disruption and war and excitement.
All right.
Well, I'm going to keep my hubris. I'm keeping my hubris, Scrub Lords.
Okay, keep the hubris. You can do it.
Bye.
See ya, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.